All right, welcome into a Friday edition of One Bills Live. Chris Brown, Steve Tasker with you, and it has happened. The final beam now in place, so all the structural steel has been laid for the new Highmark Stadium. Major press conference and event here today, just across the street, across Abbott Road. And here to join us and to shed some more light on the project is Bills Vice President of Stadium Development, John Polka. John, good to have you here in studio with us. Yep, appreciate you taking the time on what is a busy and landmark day for what has been your life for the better part of the last 3 years.
Sure. Yeah.
So let's begin with what has now been completed across the street in terms of the stages here. How far along would you say this puts the project?
You're probably, well, first, thanks for having me today. Definitely always excited to talk about the project as much as we can. Take a break from the grind of the day-to-day and actually have, enjoy what's going on over there. So we're probably, by volume in place, we're probably approaching 60%, upper 50%, 60%. So wrapping up, major milestone today, wrapping up the actual structural portion of it. You'll still see steel going in over there. That's secondary steel that we would call it. It's going to support all the other stuff going up. But major milestone for the project and the crews out there.
Yeah, and we were interested. It was interesting because almost 2 years ago, you're breaking ground. So it kind of makes sense. And the time frame, it's about 60% of the time it's been till we're supposed to open. So it probably is about 60%. It's interesting too because we're over here every day, and we remember we're seeing highlights of it now, blasting. The explosions we felt
over here, right?
Yeah, we felt it.
Hopefully not during this hour of the show.
And we'd run outside, and sure enough, you'd run outside to look over, and there'd be
plumes of smoke and stuff,
of debris and stuff. And the absolute speed with which the thing it's growing like a weed. We could see it every day, and then other people, fans, would come to the stadium after a couple of weeks, and it was like, it's startling how fast it's going up.
It's incredible to think about groundbreaking in June of 23, but it's more incredible to think that the first piece of steel was set just 14 months ago.
Right.
So everything you see from a structure standpoint has been done in 14 months, which is through 2 winters, which is incredible.
So the skeleton, for all intents and purposes, done for this stadium.
Yep.
And now we go to precast panels, and for maybe our listeners who don't understand exactly what that is, maybe just kind of shed some light on the precast panels, because that's next, right?
So we've talked before about there are different types of precast. There's structural precast, which are the ones that make up all the inside of the bowl, which are already all in place as well as part of
the seating
the seating bowl itself.
Like concrete. What they do is they put as big a piece as they can and then set that piece into the stadium to be
on all the steel structure.
But these precast panels are going on the outside, right?
What we've started now on the west side of the building is the architectural precast that we call them. So all the thin brick panels that you see in the renderings, those are now going into place on the side of the building and will continue around. In addition to perforated metal panels, which we've talked a lot about for wind confusion, metal panels, glass and glazing. So that's the next stuff that you're going to start to see.
That's what's been called the skin, right?
The skin.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All of those items together will make up the skin of the building.
So I don't know how much time you spend over there, but every once in a while we get to stick our heads in the door over there and see how it's going. The thing that gets you about it is the intimacy that this huge stadium is going to have, where I keep telling people it feels like you could just play catch right across the field. The stadium is so high and tight. It's going to be a completely different atmosphere and a vibe than the old place, where it's this old-time, wide expanse cathedral kind of Coliseum kind of place. This is going to be like a box seat.
Yeah, very much so. And we were just down on the field with Commissioner Goodell, who had the same commentary, is that it feels very tight and intimate, like it's going to be loud in there, and we hope that's the case.
I'll say this too. I get a chance. I was talking to some of the execs with, I guess, Legends, the stadium building company, and they have projects everywhere around the world, and it was kind of funny because they were giddy about how cool this stadium. He goes, I don't care. And the guy I was talking to, he goes, listen, I don't care if it's for King Abdul in Saudi Arabia or the Arsenal in Europe, or we just opened a place in Tokyo, a big building in Tokyo. This place is going to be really special. Even the guys who build these for a living are like, man, this is kind of really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Legends, Gilbane Turner, Populous, the three entities that we've really engaged to do this project. You're right. It's exciting to see them excited about a project when they see a lot of them. But this one has been special to them for a multitude of reasons.
Mm-hmm. One thing that's hard for fans to see from the road when they drive by are the interior spaces. So can you just kind of maybe share how that is coming along and where that phase is? Because people see the guys working on the outside and they think, oh, they're working all around this building, but we can't see the interior spaces. So what's happening there?
Yeah, so the tarps that you see up on the building are temporary protection in order to keep water, wind out, also to keep rain and snow and ice out. So yeah, crews, to your point, are working behind the scenes on all the interior fit out now. The field club is probably the area that's furthest along right now, just based on where the crews started. So field club, home locker room, those areas you can walk into and you see exactly what they are.
Oh, you can recognize them.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You're seeing the walls that are in place. We were actually up in Amsterdam, New York, a few weeks ago, which is where the lockers are being made. So the home lockers are now in fabrication. So we're getting close, guys.
They're going to start this fall. In a few months, they're going to get the field prepped. They're starting to put the in-ground heating system and all that in. They're going to start planting grass so they can have that ready for next spring and summer so they can get into the place. I mean, that stuff's moving right along.
Yeah, so the crews will start putting all the infrastructure in the next few weeks. The field itself will be in October, November timeframe so that we get a full growing season in before the first game's there.
That'll make the turf stronger and more resilient to
Yeah,
wear
I mean,
and
you
tear.
can, people have seen, you can take the field out, put thicker cut sod down, but the reality is the more time you get for the field to grow, the better it is from a playability standpoint.
The cool thing that we were talking about just before we came on the air that I completely forgot about, but I want to mention this because a lot of fans have asked us in the winter when it's snowing, what about the snow on the canopy? But there is a snow melt system for the top of the canopy, right?
Yep, massive snow melt system in the canopy itself. And when you're driving by now, you can actually see the canopy. You see it's kind of in a V-shaped design. So the snow melts in the middle of that V, and then there are drains that, when the snow melts, the drains will take those down into the stormwater collection area.
One of the other things, too, is that obviously we're 50 years. In fact, it was almost, 50 years to the day or 60 years to the day when the stadium was put up, the old stadium. Few technological advances. Like, I mean, you can have Wi-Fi that works for everybody in the stadium. And also, the guys I was talking to, and they're like, listen, you're going from a transistor radio in Highmark now to Dolby digital sound in this new, and they're already putting speaker pods in up there, and they said the sound system is going to be off the charts, completely different.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you think about some of the nuts and bolts type construction is the same, right?
Yeah.
But the technology is entirely different. So obviously one of the big complaints on campus and in the stadium on game days is the Wi-Fi and the cellular coverage. That's going to be the things that the fans notice the most as a difference in the stadium is the incredible systems that'll be put in to make sure that you always have access to whatever content you're looking for, tickets at the gate when you're coming in, all that stuff. So
and you guys, at least as I understood it, you've tested at least one of the speaker sound systems, and it was like, whoa, this is going to be...
we were actually out at the facility where they do the pre-testing of all that. It sounded incredible. Then they bring the speakers out, they hoist them into place. They pump some sound through it just to make sure that nothing happens in transit, sounds the way they intend for it to sound. And to your point, that was one cluster of 32 in total that will be out there, some a little bit larger, smaller. And the sound was incredible. So it's one of those moments. It's one of those moments where you we know it's going to be great, but then you actually get out there and you can you hear it and you're like,
startling. Yeah,
that's incredible.
What is that like when you I don't have to tell you the time you guys have put into this, and I know the big investment technology-wise was the sound over the video, which quite frankly just changes so often. It's hard to keep up with that. So you guys chose sound to invest in, and then when you're out there and you're hearing it for the first time, are you all looking at each other like, whoa?
It's one of those moments. Today was one of those moments where you've got a whirlwind of stuff happening all the time, and few times do we get to step back and actually appreciate what's happening.
Yeah.
That was one of those moments wow, it's really happening, and that's what we intended for it to sound like.
So you've got, and we were over there today, obviously. It's a great event. It was a big event, and one of the reasons it was big, because you had about 2,000 dudes standing around in yellow vests and hard hats that took a minute to come over. Of course, the politicians were there. We were all there. All of us were there. But all the guys that are actually busting a sweat over there were standing around, and it was pretty impressive. The amount of manpower that's in that place. Terry
and the rest of the folks on stage, Commissioner Goodell, politicians, all mentioned that, and today really is about the workforce, right?
It was kind of moving to see those guys.
It really was.
Really emotional.
Standing ovation for the team that's out there. It was incredible. And today was a nice day for us to be over there, but they've been over there for 14 months erecting this building in all kinds of different weather.
They haven't all been sunny days.
No, definitely not. So it was great for the workforce to be appreciated the way they were, because it really is their dedication that's bringing this thing to life.
All right, so what about seating layouts and rails? Like, when does that start if it hasn't already?
Yeah, so actually we're within a few weeks of, which is also another one that's kind of crazy to think about. We're within a few weeks of the rails and the seats starting to be installed.
Oh my gosh.
So towards the end of May, we'll be putting they'll be drilling and installing the rails that the seats will go on over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
And then the first seats will actually start going in at the end of May, which is, again, just another one that's incredible to think about.
It's going to be soon before the work that's being done won't be evident. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, because it's going to be, the skin's going to be on, it's going to look like it's going to look for the next 50 years.
Yeah, I would expect the fans coming. Last year was kind of cool because we were going through the structural piece of it, and fans got to see the building going up. This year, by the time we get into the season, while a lot of it will be done, the fans will still week in and week out see a lot of progress on the outside of the building. But to your point, as you get further along, it's just going to look like the building, right?
You're not going to see the interior
inside.
stuff.
Right, exactly.
Wow, it's not too far from that.
Yeah, and I would imagine, too, John, that the skeleton portion of this project is what takes the longest. Now, still 14 months front to back in terms of all the steel being put up. All of these remaining steps won't take as long as 14 months. They'll be shorter, smaller projects within the project, right?
Yeah,
so we're going to see more steps accomplished in a shorter period of time from here on out.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest note there is there's a ton of work still to be done.
Yes.
But the structural steel, and when the structure's going up, has to go up in a certain sequence, right?
Yeah.
Once you get the building up, now you can work in a lot of areas at the same time. So there's more work happening concurrently in all spaces as opposed to having to work in a certain direction. So.
What have you got still to do outside the stadium? There's a couple of headquartered buildings, and kind of commons. I don't know what they're called, even.
Yep.
The nerve center for
ancillary buildings that you've had to erect. Are those going to stay there? Are they going to kind of move out after the project is over? And how's the campus outside the stadium going to take shape?
So a lot of you guys probably saw a little bit of it today. A lot of the site work on the south side of the stadium is already done.
There's curbs and gutters and
trees
islands
in there.
Yeah.
So there's still some finish work to happen over there, but everything has been completed from a site work standpoint on that side. On the north side, they're in there right now. So after the season, we took over the northern lot, which was previously lot 4, and all the site work is happening in there now. So by the summer, you're going to see all of that area developed into what it'll look like.
Is the footprint of the new stadium that's construction footprint I'm talking about, going to shrink? So there's going to be, like, for the season coming up, are they going to be able to get cars parked closer to that? Is that going to change at all for this season, or is it going to be a lot like it was last year?
A lot like it was last year. We're losing a little bit more parking. So actually, we've been
okay.
working a little bit with Andy Major and his team to identify how are we going to compensate for some of the parking. I guess I would tell fans this is going to be a 1-year pain for a lot of benefit in
so this
future
is
years.
Right. This is going to so it's going to be even harder because you're going to have more roads and less parking spaces to use over there that you had to.
Yeah, that are now within the construction boundary.
Right.
So this year's going to be challenging. We've been working on that. Started really with Andy and his team right after the season. Started identifying ways to mitigate the parking concerns, but fortunately we'll find a way this year, and then next year we're in a great spot.
Okay. One of the things too is the mountain of rubble that you had to blast out of the old one. What happens to that? What do you push it into the old one?
So a lot of that will end up in the old facility once it's demoed. Some of it there is excess, so we'll be using that in other spots, maybe on the existing campus for other stuff. So working through that, but a lot of that material, the intention and the reason it was kept was for a lot of it to go into the old stadium.
Yeah. There's more than cost savings.
There's more than we need. It's also an environmental savings to not haul it off far and then have to import more stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot of considerations there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, John, good luck with the rest of what's in front of you. I know by no means is this done, and you're probably meeting 7 times a week for each and every little detail that's happening and traveling around the state. As you mentioned, you're in Amsterdam, like, just to kind of check out the lockers. Like, that's how fine you guys are cutting it. So keep on keeping on, because things are looking great over there. We appreciate the time.
Congratulations on today too. It's a great event.
Thank you guys. Yeah, and again, congratulations to the hardworking folks who are out there on our team internally. I'm here talking to you guys, but there's a big team behind us internally that are working as well.
I think one of the things that's going to stick with me is how much pride it gives you to see. Yeah, there's a couple there already been 3,000 different individuals over there working one way or another. 3,000 different guys and people, girls and women and everybody over there working all in yellow vests and hard hats. It was inspiring to see all of them, and they were all, you know, on a day like today, man, they were all about it. It was fun, man. It was inspiring.
I'll leave you guys with a good story kind of about that. And you heard, I'm sure we'll put it out, you know, Terry's speech talking about his father and working on projects and him taking pride in that. We were down in the field afterwards, and one of the iron workers came up who's been on the project since day one, wanted to just, you know, meet Terry, shake his hand. The individual who we met worked on KeyBank Center. So he built KeyBank Center. And he's now on this project and is intending to retire after he does this one.
Oh, wow.
Standing next to him was his son, who is also an iron worker, who is now working on this project. So, you know, just minutes after Terry told a really inspiring and emotional story.
About his dad,
About his dad, we met some folks on the field who have a very similar story. So it was really, really cool to meet those folks.
And Terry, too, right at the very end there, he said, and he just thought of it yesterday, but he's determined to find a way. And this speaks to some of the adjustments and changes that you guys have to maneuver your way through. But he wants some way for people to access a naming list, a directory list, if you will, of all the people that worked on this project. So when they bring their families here, you know, whether it's a plaque or whether it's some digital thing that where they can scroll up a list and find, you know, their dad's name, their grandfather's name, whoever it is. I thought that was a really cool idea.
Really great
it was great. He mentioned it, and those are the types of things, those are the types of adjustments that we rally behind, right? I know Frank Cravata probably has 50 ideas going through his head already, and he'll make it really cool. So, yeah, really excited for that. I'm glad Terry, you know, wants that commitment for those folks.
John, thanks for the time, because we know you don't have a lot of it these days. Good luck with the rest of the project. I'm sure we'll catch up with you down the line as opening draws closer. 2026 is going to be here before we know it.
It will. Thank you guys very much.